Hello everyone, a wonderful day all of you. Welcome to our Institution of Global Professional Free International webinar in IGP platform. Thank you all for joining in this afternoon session. And today I am a host. I am Kamrul, coordinator of IGP from Bangladesh. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to be associated with IGP as a global member. I feel honored to host this webinar, and it's my delight to welcome you all to our Institution of Global Professional Free International webinar. Thank you again all for joining in this marvelous afternoon, and it's my humble request to you that you still with us till end, and don't forget to tag, share, and mention your friends. So let's together and learn together. Today we have an exciting webinar waiting for you. Before we have completed our 438 webinar. Today I will be presenting webinar number 439, and the topic is Action Research for Innovation and Reputation. Today we have a speaker from Philippines. Today our speaker name is Nita Flor and Genio. She is a Teacher Street Department SDO Isabella Lalona National High School, and she is also most outstanding teacher Department of Education SDO Isabella Region 2. She is also DSPC and RSPC consistent winning coach and mentor. So let's we welcome our speaker through the screen. Hello, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Thank you, ma'am, for
And welcome participants to our number 439 IGP session. So may I start now, sir?
yes, ma'am. Give a short description about yourself, then you can start your presentation.
So good afternoon to everyone. I am again Ita Flor Nicolas Ganyo of the DepEd Philippines, and I'm also one of the technical working group in research in DepEd Isabela, Philippines. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining uh, this session with me. And my field of interest is usually on the field of research. So I have already published one of my research and also my innovation, and it is already in different forms of journals and magazine, most specifically in the journal here in DepEd Isabela Region 2, particularly in our division. Usually my research is on teaching and learning. So without much ado, I would like to start my session with the title Action Research for Innovation and Adoption. And again, thank you so much, IGP, for this great opportunity given to me. So what would be the objective of our discussion for today is, at the end of the session, you participants will be able to logically arrange the sequence of an AR or an action research proposal. You identify each action research proposal, and sir, kindly remove the something is barring my number 3 objective because of the introduce yourself word, the name, profession, and interest. So let's proceed to problem sensing. So we have an activity, identify me. So in an action research, usually teachers, especially in the DepEd or Department of Education in the Philippines, our limitation is only for teaching and learning. So basically, when we are talking on action research, the common questions that pop up in our minds are the following. What are the common problems that you have encountered in your classroom, in your office, or your in district or in division? And then you're going to list down at least 5 on the sheet provided if you have something that pop up in your mind, and at least you can do it within 3 minutes allotted time. Remember what are the common problems that you have encountered in your classroom. So we will delimit our research in our classroom. What would be? So do you have already comes in your mind? What are those 5 common problems that you usually encountered in your classroom? Now let's move on. Which among the problems you have listed needs the most urgency? When I say urgency, what would be the immediate? Okay, what problem needs immediate solution? So out of 5 problems, what do you think? Among those 5 problems, what problem needs the most urgency or needed the most immediate solution? Okay, now I think we are ready to take off. Okay, so based on those questions, let's find out how to start an action research for innovation and adoption. Okay, going back to the problem sensing chart, we have the direct causes, the problem, and the direct consequences. So when we say direct causes, what are the underlying causes of the problems? And then the problem, you're going to identify what problem you find in the classroom and you wanted to focus on it. And the direct consequences would be what happened if you already identified the said problem. What would be the next step that you're going to take? So let's have here an example. Direct cause, frequent absences. Then what would be your intervening school activities? Okay, why do the students make frequent absences? Maybe because of the extracurricular activities, but today we are in the trying times of pandemic, so I guess we do not have any intervening school activities depending upon the alternative delivery of our modality of instruction, whether in modular, in online, or in hybrid form, meaning to say we have a online at the same time modular. And then looking at the problem, how are you going to cope with the missed lessons of the students, especially in these trying times of pandemic? How do we help our students answer their modules correctly without the assistance of the teacher? Okay. And then what would happen if that would be the case? If your topic or if you are the teacher in ICT, then probably your students will have low performance in the ICT or using of the technology. Okay, another one. In the direct causes, once we already sense the problem, we have to see to it that the problem has a solution, and that solution will be the intervention. What would be our intervention to help our struggling or our coping students? What actions are we going to implement? And then in the objective, now that the problem is identified together with the causes and consequences, what is now your objective? And if you will able to attain your objective, what will be its consequences? Would it really your intervention is effective or not. Okay. Let's go to research questions. In our research questions, be sure that, remember again, I would like to point this out, that in the title of your action research, be sure that the problem and your intervention is already in your research title. Now let's proceed to the research questions. In research questions, my dear participants, we have to identify the problems which will be addressed. In terms of investigating or testing an idea, you are going to try out solutions to the problem being identified, create a new procedure or system, explain the phenomenon or the event or the occurrence, why that happened, and the combination of this. So the research questions logically proceeds from the context of the inquiry. It clearly relates to the identified problem or issue and conveys the desired change or improvement. So that's basically why we make action research. We research for improvement. We want the desired change for the better learning of our students. Now, what are the characteristics of good research title for innovation and adoption? Number one, the dependent and independent variable should be in the title, just like what I've said a while ago, that the intervention and the expected outcome should be written in the action research title. So there's no going around the bush. Go directly to the main point. So what is the dependent and the dependent variable that is present in the title? So usually the intervention and the expected outcome. The intervention is the dependent variable and the independent variable is the expected outcome. And then indicate accurately the subject and the scope of the study. Use acronyms because acronyms is allowed to catch the attention of the reader. An acronym is considered as one word. In cases where grade level is placed, use Hindu-Arabic number. Example, grade 5. So use Hindu-Arabic number and not Roman number. Use words that promote positive connotation. Do not and never use that denotes or connote negative impact. So never use the word lack or no or never. That is should be avoided. And then use of words. The ideal action research title, my dear participants, is a maximum of 15 words, including the function words. This is in accordance to the research guidelines here in the Philippines, and we follow these guidelines coming from our Department of Education. Okay. In case of qualitative research, use declarative question form for the title. And the title format, all capital letter, not bold, not underlined. For the context, so the nature, extent, and salience of the identified problem or issue are comprehensively discussed. Okay, so meaning to say the different aspects of the action research setting should be elaborated, showing in-depth and critical analysis of that situation. The context should capture the real situation in the classroom that is based on the research problem that you consider that really need the immediate action or immediate urgency or immediate solution for that matter. So let's proceed to the proposed intervention, innovation and strategy. So the rationale, extent, and limitation of the intervention, innovation, or strategy are explained in detail. Of course, you already know the rudiments or the basic parts of the action research. We will not go over that, but be sure that the proposed intervention, innovation, and strategy are explained in detail. The plausibility is a way to address the problem or issue should be given support in terms of the basic foundation of the research that is our clientele. How are we going to improve learning among our students? Okay, so what would be the materials that we used? Okay, interviews. What about this pandemic? Maybe you will be asking me, ma'am, what about this pandemic? We are not allowed to have the face-to-face yet. So in online teaching, or whether online teaching, radio RBI instruction, the radio broadcasting instruction, or modular approach, remember that we have different forms of assessment we use to evaluate the progress of our students. So we can use the following. Activity matrix. This is the monitoring chart where the schedule and the use of the resources in the learning center is seen. Achievement chart, a monitoring chart of the required activities, usually the performance tasks in the learner's material. Remember that our students here in the Philippines are graded based on the written output and the performance task. And then the progress chart. This is the monitoring chart of the learning outcome and competency achieved by the students. We have this, the learning monitoring tool we use in this pandemic as the grading system for our students, and the learner's record book, a monitoring tool of all the accomplishments of the students within the duration of the study, which is subdivided into 4 quarters. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. Okay? So if we're going to intervene and we want that our action research is in the first quarter, then we start the action research in first quarter, and let's find out the difference when it went to the second, third, or fourth. Okay. So we have to investigate, because they say that whatever learning that happened, whether it is in pandemic or face-to-face, the underlying problem is the teaching of the teachers. So we're going to find out if that is really reliable or valid enough. Why is it that usually the domino effect and the bottom line of those incompetency or inadequacy of our students in terms of the mastered learning competency is blamed to the teachers? So we have to investigate, we test the idea, we test the intervention we're going to make. If we try to solve a problem and we want to create a new procedure or system, if we want to explain a phenomenon or a combination of this, and then we are going to find out if there is really a desired change or improvement if we inject intervention for the learning improvement of our students. The sources of data, details are provided about the target participants. Example, you know this already, the number of our participants, the characteristics, the sampling procedure, if any, and other sources of data and information. So clear rationale for their inclusion in the studies given. And I know basically that you know those, how to make a very striking form of action research title followed by your rationale and your sources of your data sourcing, at the same time your other parts of action research. Okay, what about the data gathering methods? Your proposal, your action research proposal should explain why the selected gathering methods are suited, or the gathering method is suited to the nature and purpose of the action research. The data gathering method is aligned with the research questions, of course. And research instruments, if any, are appropriate for obtaining the desired kind of data or information. What would be your plan for data analysis? The selected method of data analysis is shown to be appropriate to the nature of the data or information to be gathered and for addressing the research questions. Never formulate research questions that are not part of your problem sensing or that are not part of your your data gathering. Now, in making work plan, my dear participants, we follow the SPAT-REST format. What is SPAT-REST? Strategies, program, activities, tasks, resources. What are those resources? The persons involved, materials, financial, and then your timeline. So this is SPAT-REST format is your work plan to guide you from the moment you start the writing, the proposal, the monitoring, and then the final stage of your action research. Okay. So in your research methods, always remember this is usually the cycle. You act, okay, you plan, you do, and then study. Again, another further study again, you act, you plan, you do, and study. Okay. So let's have for our mantra for today. You are going to unscramble the words. What do you think is the word being formed if you're going to combine correctly the following unscrambled words? What would be? I can is 100 times more important than IQ. So when we're talking about research, many are very negative on it. Negative in a sense that when they hear the word research for innovation and adoption, I think that is very difficult. I think that is very uh, full of tasks. How could I divide my time, sorting the modules, doing this, instructional materials, and how could I divide the time? Remember, I can is 100 times more important than IQ. Remember that. Okay, as long as there are problems in our classroom, there will always be an action research. And I think whether we like it or not, that is good news for us. Because as long as there are problems, we have something to research as an intervention. So we have here the rationale for the action research. This is pursuant to Republic Act number 9155, known as the Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001. This policy aims to strengthen the school-based management by further devolving the governance of education to schools, expanding community participation involvement, and making the delivery of education services to the learners more responsive, more efficient, and more effective through an enhanced school planning and improvement that lays down the specific interventions through initiated projects in the school. And how can we do that? Do an action research that do not stop only on the submission of the proposal and ended in the completion, but see to it that this will be an offshoot. Your action research should be an offshoot. It is an offshoot of your innovation. And that would be a very good example of an action research. Okay, so in consonance with such act, all teaching and non-teaching personnel are encouraged to create, innovate, school-based initiated projects geared towards the improvement of teaching learning process and school governance. Okay, so who will innovate? Teachers, master teachers, head teachers, principals, and non-teaching can innovate and make project on the following. What kind of project? Project that produces innovative ideas about using technology and innovations in the teaching learning process, and project that will help advance the knowledge about using the technology to support student learning, because we teachers should develop among our students, among the learners, the 21st century learning skills. So we have to look for an action research that would cater an innovative ideas in terms of technology. So what do we mean with innovation? What is innovation? Innovation is the introduction of new ideas, goods, services, and practices which are intended to be useful. Useful not only to the teachers, but most especially to our students. Okay? Why do we innovate? Because we would like to address gaps on access, quality, and relevance and governance or management of education services such as increased enrollment or participation rate, reduce or zeroing the dropout rate, reduce failure rate. It could improve academic performance, enhance learning environment, or improve physical facilities. And then the project of contextualization and indigenization. So when are we going to put this contextualization and indigenization, especially when we are using the alternative delivery of modality of modular printed approach, wherein the given learning activity sheets or modules, we can contextualize or indigenize them so that our learners in our locality can understand better the lesson. Okay, so what do we mean by innovation? Innovation is something new or improved, including research for development of technologies, refinement of existing technologies, development of applications for existing technologies. Example, when we are going to make games and we have to upgrade it, and that is another form of innovation. If we gamify game, and with that gamified game, we upgrade that gamified game into something new or we improved it, and that is an innovation. Okay. So innovation can be defined as the process of implementing new ideas to create value for an organization. This may mean creating a new service, system, or process, or enhancing existing ones. Innovation can also take the form of this continuing inefficient, remember, inefficient or out of date service, system, or process. So when we innovate, the inefficient or out of date service system or process is being improved. And once we improved it, then that is an innovation. Okay. So according to Business Dictionary, innovation is a process of translating an idea or invention into a good or service that creates value or for which customers will pay. Okay, that is in the Business Dictionary. To be called an innovation, an idea must be replicable at an economical cost and must satisfy specific needs. So this is innovation in terms of business. What about in teaching? Of course, the service we give to our students is selfless. So it is unpayable. So whatever we do to our students, in terms of example, uh, in grading system, if we're going to upgrade it so that the teachers will have uh, what we call their difficulty in computing grades, then if we have the problem in the school, then we can innovate that. So how are we going to make life easier for our teachers so that they will not have difficulty in computing grades? Okay, so we have the three kinds of innovation in education. We have the structure, content, and process, or the what we call the SCP, or structure, ways classrooms and schools are organized. So when we're talking about classrooms, usually are our teaching and learning agenda. And schools, that is the level of governance of the principal and our head in the school. The content, introduce new subjects or revise old subjects in new ways. And then process, those that have to do with human interaction. So remember that when we innovate in education, our main key point or our main focus is how can we help our students improve their learning in terms of the structure, the method of our teaching, the content, how are we going to introduce new learning for them in such a way that it is in a 21st century manner and no longer the traditional way. And then how do we undergo the process, how do we interact with our students. And then we have the project classification for making innovation, the access, the quality, and relevance in terms of curriculum and the governance. Okay, so we have here the current innovations in education. These are the product of the research made by the Department of Education here in the Philippines, the Project Impact, the NCBTS, the ICE Excels, and then the OTAP or the Observer program. Okay. We have also the Project Apex of the Applied Academics in Excellence. So you see our Department of Education here in the Philippines love acronym in sustaining an innovation. So what makes a good proposal in terms of action research for innovation and for action research for adoption innovation? It must be qualified to benefit the learners. Again, okay, our main focus is for the benefit of the learners. And other stakeholders have a plausible management plan and the resources needed to complete the task within the stated time, and cost estimates or approximation of the probable cost of the project computed on the basis of available information. In the Philippines, when we make an action research, it is 6 months time. And innovation is 1 year. Okay, so one attribute of a good proposal is appearance. A strong proposal has an attractive, professional, inviting appearance. Not basically on the literal appearance, but when you are talking here on the appearance is how strong is your proposal? Is it striking? Is it needful? Is it urgent? Okay. Is the information easy to access? So those are the theoretical questions that we have to put in mind when we make good proposal. Okay, the second attribute is substance. Strong proposal has a well-organized plan of attack. A strong proposal also has technical details because technical depth is needed to sell your project. Okay, when you are talking about sell your project, is it innovative enough that could be adapted not only in the school level, but also in the district, in the division, in the region, in the uh, whole region, or in the whole Philippines? That would be the big question. And then what would be the guidelines and criteria? The proposed project is aligned with depth and trust and contributory to the attainment of the department's vision and mission. The proponent must present the reasons for the project and what needs or problems he or she wants to solve or address and innovate. The proposed project must be qualified to benefit the learners and other school stakeholders. Again, as I am telling you a while ago, that why we are doing an action research for innovation and adoption, because we want to benefit our learners the most, and not only for our teachers, for for promotion. That would be the secondary one, but the most important thing is to benefit the learners. And the proposed project must have a realistic management plan and the resources needed to complete the project within a calendar year. So that is the innovation. It is only good for 1 year. Unlike for action research, 6 months. From the day of proposal up to the completion should be 6 months in action research. Okay, so with this, I would like to end my topic with the words from Brian Herbert, and it says, I'm looking for the time because I will be attending later on for another session. So we have here the quotation from Brian Herbert, and I quote, the capacity to learn is a gift and the ability to learn is a skill. The willingness to learn is a choice. So in making an action research, it is your choice. If you want our learners to be we want them to master the level of competencies, then we have the ability, we have the skill to make them the better to make them have a better future, and they will be able to reach their dreams through us. That's all, and thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you too. You're welcome. Welcome, sir.
Ma'am, now we are proceed to our question and answer session. After a short video clips, we come to
Yes, sir.
we make together. Dear participants, it's our question and answer session time. You can send your question in our comment box. Our speaker already ready to answer the question. After question and answer session, we will share the certification process. So participants are requested to ask their question in our comment box. There is a comment from Sheila May Bering. Everything is clear to me, therefore I have no question. They understand it.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, our first question from Mary Juliet Della. Good
Yes.
afternoon, Ma'am. For what is the importance of action research when it comes to teacher promotion?
Yeah. Yes, Ma'am Mary Juliet de la Torre Basan. Thank you for that very timely question, because we are in the third reading of the teacher 4, 5, and 6, 7, and 8 promotion for the DepEd teaching personnel. So the importance of action research when it comes to teachers promotion is basically is for the point system. When you have a competition for the promotion and you have an action research, and that action research is you also make it the intervention you use in action research, you make it into a point that you can proceed it into an innovation as an offshoot of an action research that is actually hitting two birds in one stone. And an action research, once it is a basic education research fund funded by the DepEd, that is 12 points. And if it is non-BERP, or it's just for, you submitted action research proposal and waiting for the completion, that is not funded by the Basic Education Research Fund, and that is 6 points. And that is an edge if you have any competitor for your the promotion. Okay, so be sure that when you make an action research, dear participants, you have to hit two birds in one stone. Why two? You have to hit two birds in one stone because once you have submitted action research, be sure that once it is completed, the intervention you used in the action research could be made into an innovation. Okay, so that you cannot research again and make an innovation again. Okay, so that is the easiest way. Once it is an offshoot of your action research, then there will be no more question about it because you have tested it, you have verified it, validated it, then that's how many points? So 12 points, and your innovation is the intervention being used is, I think it's 20 points.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next question, ma'am Nita Plogenio. May I ask how is action-based research in this time of pandemic?
Okay, thank you for that uh, very good question. Okay, so usually when we make an action research, we have to relate it basically on the pandemic. When we make an action research, uh, we have to see it that it is really timely. So once we are in the pandemic time, what would be the research that we're going to make? Of course, it wouldn't be on dealing on the face-to-face basis, but on the pandemic. So what would be the suggestions or uh, I think the proposal that you're going to make is that the use of modular instruction. Is it effective? Okay, now that is one way. Or you're going to make a comparative analysis on the hybrid, or let's say the synchronous and synchronous, the online and the modular, which is more effective. Now, basically, when we make an action research in pandemic, we look on the learning activity sheets, we look into the modules, and with that, whether modular or online or radio-based, we have to study the effectiveness in terms of the transferring of learning to our students. And that is very good action research proposal. And remember that when we make an action research proposal, we look on the least mastered competency. So every grading period, we submit our test items with the item analysis, and we are recording the least mastered competency, and we start from there. The least mastered competency, and then how are we going to level it up to the higher level of mastered competency. That is a good one. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next question from Ivy Jane. Can you share us a sample action research, ma'am?
Yeah, sure. I can share the action research I made way back, when was that? 2020, I think, which was published in the magazine and the journal. And I also presented it. What is very, I just want to inform you, my dear participants, and Ma'am Ivy Jean, that, you know, when we make our action research, we should do it in passion. And once we do it in passion, then it will have a different blessing voice, because what I have done, I already presented it in the Simeo Singapore, and also uh, the we made a collaboration in the University of Australia, for that matter, and we are working on it. So that is the happiness of making an action research. When we have the passion, then everything will fall into the right place.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next question. Could you please suggest some action research topics?
Yeah, I already mentioned it while ago, Ma'am Rubilin, the suggested research topics in these times of COVID-19 pandemic. Usually you look on the list mastered competency. And then from there, you devise a title of your action research proposal on how are you going to make an action result. You make an action research proposal for that matter. We look on the when we are in that ed, we look on the list mastered competency. And based from there, we make an action proposal.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next question from Arlenius Pijo. You have mentioned that an action research takes 6 months. Is it okay if I have tried an innovation in 1 quarter, then the analysis part, interpretation, and other paperwork took another quarter to be done?
Yeah, but that would be basically you can do that, Ma'am Arlene. But the main point here is when you are making an action research, you have to follow this PATRES format that is taken into 6 months. And then after that, if you want to make an innovation, you can start in any quarter. But that would be another way. If it is not an offshoot of your action research for that matter, then you can make it both.
Thank you. Our next question from Maribin Campos. How can action research spark innovation and boost creativity in the classroom?
All right. So I would like to share you the action research I made, which was used for innovation and adoption from the different regions. So we have here the action. Remember, we have here the main problem in our school is the reading ability of our students. So it is alarming again that the UNICEF recently made a research on the reading simple text wherein Philippines ranked top two on the bottom, Laos and then Philippines and then Cambodia who tied up with 10%. And the reading simple text research made by UNICEF as was the highest again. I think uh, Malaysia emerged the top one in terms of reading text. So you see, reading is alarming in our depth in depth and Philippines for this matter. So what I made is I made a in my action research I made a personalized reading as my intervention, and that personalized reading is not only the text itself but also an illustrative graphic material. So it is a personalized reading text, personalized in such a way that it is fully illustrative in nature, and there is the English text, the Filipino text, and the mother tongue text for them to understand better the text.
Thank you. Our next question from Evelyn Oeferi. Good afternoon, ma'am. How are you going to motivate teachers to do an action research? And thank you.
Yeah, I think the basic step is set a good example. You cannot, you know the old saying that goes, uh, you can you can bring the horse to the river, but you cannot force them to drink. Okay, so you can bring the river, you can bring the horse to the river, but you cannot force that horse to drink. So set a good example. You make an action research and show them that if you can make it, then they can make it also. And never be selfish with the knowledge you have, because that is what learning is all about. We share what is worth sharing. So if we know something, then we share. And then we do collaborative learning. It is a matter of, lead them, show example. And as I've said, you can bring them to water, but you cannot force them to drink. So let them. You let them by showing the way.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next question from Aline Espizo. Ma'am, Nitaflo, I am planning to make an action research based on the result of one of our project in the department, a remedial intervention. Would that be acceptable?
Yes, that is a very good, acceptable. This is what we call uh, very good form of action research. Your remedial is your intervention. So you just come up with a good title with the intervention. With if that is your remedial, remedial is your form of intervention. Then what would be the expected outcome? That should be present in your title. So what type of remedial is that? Is that remedial reading or what? Remedial in mathematics or whatever subject, and then the expected outcome. Then that makes a very good action research title itself.
Thank you, ma'am. You have answered a lot of question, and this is our
Yeah,
last
I
question.
couldn't. Yeah, it's okay.
This is our last question, ma'am. How is action research different to any other type of research? Could you please share us common sample of action research applicable in school days?
Yeah. When we are talking about action research, Ma'am Jubilin, if we are classroom teachers, whether teacher one to master teachers, our level of governance in research is only focusing on teaching and learning. We cannot do otherwise. And then if it is on school matters, just like physical improvement or any, uh, you know, studies on the teachers themselves, then that is the level of governance among the principals and the school heads. So basically, when we are teaching, we are classroom teachers, we focus mainly on teaching and learning. So no other action research that we could make, only on teaching and learning, because that is our level of governance.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for your time you sharing with us.
Yeah, thank you
Actually,
so much to IGP. Thank you.
today lots of compliment for you in the comment box from our
Thank you so
participant.
much. I hope I really wanted to make another session on how to make another one that you could share it not only in the Philippines but to the different platforms international into an international level. But I guess we have, I think another session would do because I will be having another session with the other
Best best
organization as well.
best of luck, ma'am, for your next
Yeah.
session.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Dear participants, our today's program name is Action Research for Innovation and Adaptation, and the code is IGP 7653. The code is IGP 7653. Without code, no one is eligible for certificate. With code, you can claim your certificate anytime. To download the certificate, you have to go to eduigp.com and the code is IGP 7653. With after collecting the certificate, don't forget to celebrate with IGP. Thank you very much for making this session wonderful. Thank you very much.